Had over 1,000 one-on-one conversations with creator businesses, whether in fitness, yoga, dance, education, faith, across every niche. And the thing I keep coming back to is this. The ones who are struggling and the ones who are thriving, they're usually not that different in terms of talent, not in content quality, not even in audience size. The difference is almost always structural. It's infrastructure. It's 3 specific decisions they've made about how their business is built and the behaviors those decisions make possible. That's what this episode is about. 3 decisions. I'm going to teach you what they are, show you what happens when real businesses make them, and give you something you can actually use tonight, not someday, tonight. Here's what I mean by infrastructure. The businesses that are growing are doing specific things. They're building an email list and actually using it. They're building an incredible onboarding experience for new members, not just hoping that those people find the content. They're engaging their community. They're publishing consistently. The businesses that are stalling are usually not doing those things, not because they're lazy, but because their setup makes those things hard or invisible or even feeling impossible. You don't have a content problem. You don't have a marketing problem. You have an infrastructure problem. And the infrastructure you're running on is the reason your business feels harder than it should. The good news is that infrastructure is a decision, and decisions can be changed. And I want to be upfront. I don't always see it this way. Early on in my coaching work, I was working with a dance fitness business. They had a real community. They had great energy. They had people showing up to in-person events week after week after week. And I looked at that audience and I thought, this is a conversion problem. These people are already bought in. We just need to figure out how to get them to subscribe to the digital membership. So we tested different offers. We tested different angles. We tested different CTAs, but almost none of it worked. And I had to ask myself a hard question. Why am I focused on the last step of a process when the first 3 steps don't exist? We hadn't understood the digital audience. We hadn't built messaging that resonated with them. We were optimizing the end of a funnel that didn't really have a beginning. And that's when my thinking started to shift. I was treating it as a tactic problem, and it was an infrastructure problem. And the more businesses I worked with after that, hundreds of them, the more I saw the same pattern. So let me show you the 3 decisions, starting with the biggest one. One of the most common things I hear is some version of, I already have an audience on YouTube, or I'm getting traction on Instagram, or I have followers. I just need to figure out how to make money from them. I get it. If you've spent years building on YouTube or social, it feels like that audience is yours, but it's not. It's theirs, the platform's. The algorithm decides who sees your content. The platform decides what you get paid. You have no direct relationship with the people who value your work. One algorithm update, one policy change, and what you spent years building can just disappear. That's not owning your audience, that's renting it. So the question I always get is, but Daniel, my audience expects my content to be free. If I put stuff behind a paywall, won't I lose everything? Well, no, but you have to think about it differently, because this is the framework. Your content lives in 2 buckets. Bucket 1 is your free content on YouTube, on social, on a podcast, whatever it is. This definitely matters, but it changes jobs. It stops being the product and starts being the marketing for the product. It answers the question, who is this person and can they help me? Bucket 2 is your membership, your course, your paid community, whatever the model is, the content people pay for. And here's what most creators get wrong. They think they need to build an entirely new library from scratch, but you don't, because most of you already have the content, you just haven't structured it. Here's the litmus test. How many of the people following you on social media are also on your email list? For most businesses I talk to, the answer is almost none. Thousands of followers with a tiny email list or no list at all. And that's the problem. Your followers belong to the platform. Your email list belongs to you. If Instagram disappears tomorrow, your followers are gone. Your email list goes with you. So the first thing you can do before you build anything, before you launch anything, is set up an email capture. One piece of your best content free in exchange for an email address. Every follower you convert to an email subscriber is a relationship that you now own. That is the bridge between renting and owning, and that is step 1. Let me show you what this looks like when someone actually makes the decision. I worked with a fitness creator who spent 15 years building her brand almost entirely on free YouTube content with a massive audience, hundreds of thousands of followers. She showed up on camera constantly with new programs every season, with everything free and everything public. And after 15 years, the business was doing only a couple $100,000 a year, which sounds like a lot until you hear what it was costing her. She was burnt out. Her words were she'd been so all in, showing every element of her life for so long that she just went cold turkey on content. She had an audience that loved her, but the business couldn't sustain her family. And she told me that nurturing followers on social media was not feeding her family. She was hemorrhaging at a rate she couldn't sustain, and those were her words, not mine. So she made the decision. She stopped giving everything away for free, moved her content behind a membership, raised her price, and here's the part that changed things. She realized she already had over 3,000 videos. 3,000. So she didn't necessarily need to film a single new thing. She just needed to structure what she had into a system her members could follow. In her words, she said, I have over 3,000 videos. I don't need to keep creating content. I just need to promote what's there. And her revenue went from $200,000 to more than double that, and on pace for, you can kind of insinuate and figure out how much from there. But that's the same person with the same content, with the same audience. The only thing that changed was the decision. With a 70% free trial conversion rate, 42% of her monthly members upgrading to annual plans. She didn't create something new. She restructured what she already had, and she built an email list that she owns instead of a follower count that the algorithm controls. Now, most creators who realize they need to own their audience go out and get a platform. That's great, decision made. But then they've still got their email tool over here, their scheduling tool over here, community in a Facebook group, live classes on Zoom. They made the ownership decision, but they're running everything through this kind of like stitched together stack of tools that don't talk to each other. And that stack is costing them more than they think. Not just money, but growth. So tell me if this sounds like your setup. One tool for email, one tool for video hosting, one for Calendly or Acuity for scheduling, Zoom for live, a Facebook group for community, Stripe for payments, Zapier for holding all of those things together, and a separate website on top. I worked with a fitness creator in the UK with one person running everything by herself, and her stack was Zapier, Flowdesk, ManyChat, Squarespace, membership platform, every tool talking past the others. And she told me every single Zap I set up is failing. I spent hours on the integrations and they're all failing. She said her to-do list felt 6 million miles long, and she was spending more time managing tools than creating content. And then she said something that stopped me. Am I making it harder by trying to do this all separately? Yes. That's the second decision. Here's why this matters beyond the monthly bill. The real cost of running a stitched together stack isn't necessarily in the money. Although the money does add up, it's what the fragmentation prevents you from doing. There are 4 behaviors that separate growing creator businesses from stalling ones. 4 things, and a fragmented setup makes all 4 of them harder. Number 1 is email. Businesses that send regular emails to their audience grow at dramatically higher rates than those that don't. The gap in the data I've seen is 24 percentage points. It's not a rounding error. That is the difference between growth and stagnation. But if your email tool is separate from your membership, you can't always segment by member behavior. You can't automatically email someone who started a trial but hasn't started watching anything. You're blasting the same message to leads, active members, and people who churned 6 months ago, and your email stops working. The second thing is onboarding. This is the most important number I'm going to share today. If someone in their first 7 days, whether they're on a free trial or they just signed up, watches at least 3 videos, the likelihood that they stick around and become a long-term paying member goes up roughly 10 times. 10 times. 3 videos, 7 days. This isn't just about trials. This is about the experience that you build for every new person who walks through the door. Do they feel welcomed? Do they know where to start? Do they get a curated sequence that shows them the best of what you offer? Or do they land in a library of hundreds of videos with no guidance and have to figure it out themselves? If your video platform doesn't talk to your email tool, you can't automate any of that. You're hoping new members find the content on their own, and most of them don't. They sign up, feel overwhelmed or underwhelmed, and leave. The third is community. Members who engage with other members stay longer, period. But if your community lives in a Facebook group separate from your content, you're asking people to context switch, and most community engagement happens on mobile between sessions on the phone. If the community isn't in the same place as the content, that engagement never happens. Number 4, publishing rhythm. The businesses that publish new content consistently, the ones that stall, let their library go stale. And when your stack is fragmented, publishing is painful. Upload to one tool, email from another, post to a third, update a fourth. Every piece of friction in that process makes it less likely you'll hit publish. The stack isn't just expensive. It's the reason the growth behaviors don't happen. And when the behaviors don't happen, the business stalls. Not because you're not working hard enough, because the structure, the infrastructure is working against you. Now let's talk about money, because that obviously matters too. Video hosting is $300 to $500 a month, depending on your library size and streaming needs. Email tools run $100 to $300 a month or more. That scales with your list. So the bigger you grow, the more you pay. I saw a business paying $2,000 a month on email alone. Zoom can be $15 to $50. Scheduling can be $20 to $30. Websites can be $30 to $50 to hundreds or thousands. Community platform can be $50 to $100 plus. Zapier can easily be $100 or more once you have real automations running, and that adds up. You're already at $700 to well over $1,000 a month for a stack that doesn't even talk to itself. And that's before you count the hours you spend being the human duct tape, holding it all together. Add up what you're paying right now, all your tools and your monthly total, because I think that number might surprise you. Remember the fitness creator in the UK with the failing Zaps? Once she consolidated everything in one place, she stopped paying for integrations that kept breaking and got her email sequences running natively, could finally automate her onboardings, segment her list, and actually see what was working. Her churn rate dropped to 5%. Her onboarding emails hit a 50% open rate. Just last week, I made some tweaks with her for her customer newsletter, and the click rate went from 1% to 6% in less than a week. She didn't become a tech person. She stopped needing to be one. When everything runs from one place, the growth behaviors that actually matter become possible instead of painful. And here's the thing. This isn't a one-time transformation, then you're done. Just last week, she and I made that adjustment to her newsletter with one change. That click rate went from under 1% to over 6%. And that's the compounding effect. With the right infrastructure, small moves produce outsized results. But you can't make those small moves when you're spending all your time managing a stack that's fighting you. So you've got two decisions down: own your audience, consolidate your tools. And here's the honest part that took me a while to learn. The right tools are necessary, but they are not always sufficient. I mentioned 4 growth behaviors a minute ago: email, onboarding, community, and publishing rhythm. Those behaviors are what actually drive growth. But here's the thing. Most businesses don't know which behavior to focus on first. They don't know whether the problem is acquisition or retention or engagement or pricing. And that's not a failure of effort. It's a failure of visibility. On every coaching call I do, I run a simple diagnostic, 3 areas in order: social health, subscription acquisition performance, and subscription retention and engagement. Social health: where is your audience? How engaged are they? And are they growing? Acquisition: are people finding you? Are they converting from followers to trials to paying members? Retention and engagement: once people are in, are they staying? Are they watching? How many are leaving within the first few months? Are they part of the community? Are they renewing? Simple. Kind of. 3 things. But here's what I've learned from doing this thousands of times. Almost no one can see their own bottleneck. A business comes to me and says, I need more traffic. I need more leads. My problem is acquisition. Then I run my diagnostic. Their trial conversion rate is 30%. They're losing 7 out of 10 people who try their product. They don't have an acquisition problem. They have an onboarding and retention problem, but they can't see it because they're inside it. Another business says, my churn's too high. I need better content. I look at the data. They're not emailing any of their members. No onboarding sequence, no nudge to watch. People sign in, they get silence, and they leave. It's not a content problem. It's a retention and engagement problem. But from the inside, it can all look and feel the same. That's why the 3rd decision matters. So here's what I want you to do tonight. Not someday, tonight. Pull up 3 numbers for your business. Number 1, your trial to paid conversion rate. What percentage of people who start a free trial actually become paying members? If it's below 50%, something's broken and your onboarding needs some work. Full stop. That's it. The businesses I work with that are thriving, they're engineering those first 7 days. 3 videos at a minimum, a curated sequence, automated nudges, and they're not leaving it to chance. Number 2, your churn rate. What percentage of paying members cancel each month? Below 5% is strong. Between 5 and 8 is workable. Above 10% means you might be pouring water into a leaky bucket, and no amount of marketing fixes will help a leaky bucket. If your churn is high, the answer is almost never create more content. The answer is usually, are you emailing your members? Are they in a community? Do they feel like they belong to something, or did they just buy a product? Number 3, the email gap. Are you sending regular emails to your audience? Not just launch blasts, but regular value-driven emails. The data I've seen shows a 24 percentage point growth gap between businesses that email consistently and businesses that don't. If you're not emailing, start. That one behavior alone changes the trajectory. 3 numbers: trial conversion, churn, and email. Look at yours tonight and ask which one is the weakest. And that could be your bottleneck. That's what you should fix first. Now, let me tell you about a film education business. 3,000 members across 96 countries with over 900 videos. They were running on a setup that was, in the founder's words, such a headache to make always work. A fragile system, expensive outside help. One person knew how everything worked, and if that person was unavailable, the whole thing felt like it could break. Churn was at 13%. So they consolidated, got it all into one place, but the platform alone didn't fix it. What fixed it was having someone from the outside run the diagnostic. Restructured pricing from a confusing credit system to a clean membership model. Launched community channels. Identified which content actually retained members and what was dead weight. Churn went from 13% to under 8%. Here's how the founder describes it now. I feel like I'm playing an instrument. If I need to roll out a piece of content, I know where everything is. I can play it like I'm playing the piano. The businesses that grow at 25% a month instead of 8%, it's not because they work 3 times harder. It's because someone from the outside looked at their numbers and said, stop doing that, start doing this. Here's the order. The right diagnosis at the right time in the right sequence. 3 decisions. First, own your audience. Stop renting it from platforms that can change the rules overnight. Build an email list. Convert followers to subscribers you control. Your free content becomes your marketing. Your paid content becomes the business. Second, consolidate. The stitched together stack isn't just expensive. It's preventing the 4 behaviors that actually drive growth. Email, onboarding, community, publishing. When those behaviors are hard, they don't happen. When they don't happen, the business stalls. Third, get an outside perspective. Run the diagnostics, social health, acquisition performance, retention, and engagement. Check your trial conversion, your churn, your email consistency. Find your weakest number, and you might find your bottleneck. And if you can't see it clearly, find someone who's looked at 1,000 businesses and can tell you what to fix first. I want to name one more thing because I know some of you are feeling it. I worked with a yoga instructor who told me she felt so behind and regretful because her platform felt unprofessional. She wasn't ready to share it because her logo wasn't finished. She said, my logo and all that stuff's not going to be ready. The most expensive decision I see creator businesses make isn't choosing the wrong platform or the wrong price point. It's waiting. Waiting for the branding, waiting for the full content library, waiting to feel ready. Every business I've worked with that actually built something successful, every single one launched before they felt ready. You don't need a full content library. You need enough to start. You don't need perfect branding. You need a message clear enough that the right people know it's for them. If you've been waiting, consider that the wait is the thing that's costing you. Here's what I'd ask you to do. Go run the diagnostic. 3 numbers: trial conversion, churn rate, email consistency. Find your weakest one, and that is your starting point. Not someday, today. And if you want to keep going, if you want this kind of thinking in your inbox every week, I write something called the Growth Memo. You can see the QR code on screen now, but every week, one growth strategy, not a roundup of tips, not theory, one specific play tested across real membership businesses that you can implement that same week. The retention rates, the conversion benchmarks, the churn patterns, the same data and coaching perspective I shared today, but applied to whatever is most relevant right now. It's free, 1 email a week. The link is in the description, or scan the QR code on screen right now. I'll leave you with this. The 3 decisions that I shared today aren't complicated. Own your audience, consolidate your tools, get the outside perspective you can't give yourself. None of that is rocket science. But here's what I've learned from 1,000 of these conversations. The gap is never knowledge. It's never, I didn't know I should build an email list. The gap is action. It's the distance between knowing what to do and actually doing it. Every business I showed you today, the fitness creator who restructured thousands of videos, the 1-woman operation in the UK, the film education company with members in 96 countries, they all knew something needed to change. The thing that separated them was they made the decision. They didn't wait for perfect conditions. They looked at their infrastructure, found the thing that was holding them back, and changed it. You can do the same thing tonight. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.